Good morning and happy Tuesday. It is May 12th, 2020, and today's one of my favorite lessons of the year. Okay, I wish we were at school. Obviously, we're not, so we're going to do it a little differently at home here. And I really just want to get right into it. It's about measuring length using objects. So normally at school, we'd use cubes and paper clips and all kinds of fun stuff. I know a lot of people don't have that stuff at home, including myself, because teachers don't have all that stuff at home with them all the time. Okay, so I brought home something else to help me measure, but I'm going to watch the visual learning video first, and then we're going to do some measuring with different units today. So here we go. My screen share, here we go. All right, here's the video. All right, let's do it.
You can use paper clips to measure the length of an object. Paper clips will be the unit you use to measure how long the marker is. One student measured the marker this way. Why is this way not correct?
Okay, if you know anything about measuring something, then you should know why this does not work. Okay, who thinks they know? I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see. What's wrong with the way this person measured? What did they do wrong? Okay, I see a bunch of overlapping when they're measured. Now, if you know about measuring, you need to make sure things are put nicely together, not overlapping. I'll put it this way so you can see, okay? Not overlapping like that. They need to go right next to each other, edge to edge, no gaps when you're measuring, right? So they go next to each other, they don't overlap, and there's no gaps in between, right? So this person here, there's a bunch of overlapping on here. So this boy or girl might have said, oh, I think there's 4 paper clips, but we know that there's some overlap, so it's not really 4. All right, let's see.
Some paper clips are on top of others, so the measure will be too big. Another student measured the marker like this. The paper clips are different sizes, so you cannot tell how many of each it will take to measure the marker.
Okay, so another thing, like I said, when you're measuring, you have to have the same object. They have to be the same size. You can't have ones overlapping. You can't have one bigger than another one. So when you measure, you need to make sure you're using the same size unit. This unit, they're using paper clips, right? I have quarters today. You can use pennies, you can use cubes, but they all have to be the same size. Okay, so it's a little tricky when we're at home here doing it because maybe not everyone has the same size units. So we're going to watch the rest of the video and then we're going to get into it.
This is the correct way. The same unit should be lined up from one end of the object to the other with no gaps or overlaps. The marker is 3 paper clips long. You can also measure the marker using cubes. The marker is 4 cubes long.
Okay, so you heard a really cool thing that he said there, right? He said the only way you can do it, let me rewind it. He said you can from the one end of the object to the other with no gaps or overlaps. Sorry, I was just trying to find that line there. With no gaps or overlaps. Okay, so if you can remember that in your head, no gaps or overlaps, then you can do this measuring, and I'm sure you're going to do great at it no matter what unit you have at home. So again, we're going to do something a little different today because normally I would take you through the book and the pages and we'd all use the same page and get the same answer and all that stuff. Well, not everybody has the same units at home, so we're going to all use something different, I'm sure. So I'm just going to teach you how to do it on my end and make sure that there's no gaps or overlaps, right? Because that's probably my favorite thing out of this. As long as you remember that, you'll be able to do this, all right, and get the right answer every time, okay? So I am just going to fast forward, make sure we watched all of it. Good. They did the cube, and here we go. So instead of going to my student edition, I'm going to actually take you to an IXL that you are going to do tomorrow. Now, I hope, actually, I don't know if it let me change. Let me go back and share my screen again. So with IXL, this is going to be the lesson tomorrow, okay? So instead of coming on and watching a video, you're gonna go to IXL, which I know you all love. I love it. You see Mr. Nielsen, I'm doing it right now, okay? So this is one of the lessons you're gonna do tomorrow. It says, use dice to measure the line. Well, I have all these dice here, okay? And I can pick it up and scroll with it, move it around, right? So what you have to do is click down on it and pull it or drag it to where you want it. So it says, use dice to measure the line, okay? If you need help, you can use this button here.
Use dice to measure the line.
It reads it to you, right? So I'm gonna use this dice. I'm gonna put it here. Is that the right way to measure? Because it says the line is about blank dice long. So I wanna know how many dice there is. Let's see. Well, I put 2 dice there. Is that how long the line is? No, silly Mr. Nielsen. All right, let me check. I'll change it up. What about that? On your screen right now, look at it closely. Is that line the same as 1 dice? If you think yes, give me a thumbs up. Oh, I think it's 1 dice. So I type in the number 1. I hit submit. Super, they say, because I'm a superstar. You already knew that, though, okay? So number 2, right? Yours might look a little different. Okay, I'm just going through some practice and showing you how you're going to do it tomorrow, and also how to measure things by lining them up. So you would take it, and if it's more than 1, I put 1 dice all the way at the beginning of the line. Now, this is important, right? Because in your book today, you're going to have to make sure you line things up way at the beginning. Okay, so this is the line here, and my first dice has to line up perfectly with the beginning of the line, and then I need to make sure it goes to the end of the line. Well, what if I put it like this? Is that right? Are you saying no? I think I hear people saying no. Okay, right, that's not right. What about this way? Well, they're next to each other. Isn't that right? Nope. What about now? Nope. What's wrong with that one? They are overlapping, right? And we said no gaps, no overlaps. Okay, we got to put them next to each other, and I'm going to make it as nice as I can. I put them side by side. If I was doing it with quarters, okay, I would make sure the quarters are side by side here. No gaps, no overlaps, okay, side by side. All right, that's what I'm going to use today when we do it. So I hit submit. Oh, I didn't type the answer in. Hang on. I got 2 dice long, all right? And submit. Great job. Now we're using paper clips. Now this is more of a traditional thing people use. If we were in class, we would use paper clips. So I'm just going to show this one, then we're going to move to the book, all right? Paper clips. Where do you start? You line up at the front. Now guess what? If I started like this, that's not how you want to start. That's not at the beginning of the line. That's not at the end of the line. That's right in the middle. Then I'm going to try to what? Put them here and put them here. Well, no. See, because now my starting one is not right at the beginning. So I should have put my first one here, and then my next one moves down, and the next one. Okay, and now I have 3 paper clips. They go all the way to the end, all the way to the beginning. There's no gaps, no overlaps, and 3 paper clips long. Did I get it right? Excellent job, it says. And now I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to move back to the Pearson Realize so that we can do it in the book here, okay? So if you have your book, all right, it is going to be page 566. Now, again, I told you with this one, you're going to need something different, okay? So if you're watching this video on your own, okay, with your parents there, you can pause the video and you can go get something like quarters, pennies, paper clips. Okay, I have a big jar of change. I'm sure people have jars of change at home. Okay, maybe you can ask your mom or your dad and say, do we have any change? Do we have pennies? Do we have nickels? Okay, do we have quarters? All right, they have to be the same. Okay, so if you're using quarters, they all have to be quarters. If you're using pennies, they have to be all pennies. If you're using paper clips, use paper clips. If you have cubes, use cubes, but they have to be the same size. All right, because again, I can't do this with you today because we all have something different. So I'm just showing you how it's going to work because everyone's answers are going to be different today. So I just want you to get practice with this, and then you will be experts on measuring with objects, okay? So the first one here, if you're looking at the screen, it shows me the stapler. And it says how many cubes would measure this stapler. Well, guess what? I can't measure the stapler with cubes because I don't have cubes. Okay, maybe you don't have cubes either. So if I was in my book, I would take quarters and I would line them up, okay, like this. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna move my screen down, okay? I have a lot of quarters here. So I'm gonna measure something that's not a stapler, right? I'm gonna use my phone as the example. Okay, so here's what I would do. You can see my phone. I'm gonna put one all the way at the beginning, and I'm gonna say, let's measure how long my phone is, okay? So I have 1 quarter, 2 quarters, they're side by side, 3 quarters, and I'm hoping you can see this. My screen is very tilted right now. 4 quarters, 5, 6, and almost to 7. Now, when we have measuring, okay, if you can see that, I'm gonna just tilt it up real fast, okay? And here we go. You should be able to see that there's 7 quarters there. All right, there's 7 quarters, and you can measure that, the phone length. Now, I did my phone just to show you something, right? They want you to measure the stapler. So you're gonna take whatever you're using, your quarters, your pennies, and you're gonna put them on the line in your book and measure each item. So number 2 is a little robot, right? So what I would do is take my quarter in my book and I would put one all the way down at the bottom near his feet. And then I would put one on top because it's measuring height and it's going up, and I would measure it like this. 2 quarters, right, on top of each other, and that's about the height of that robot. Okay, so if you're doing this at home and you have pennies or you have nickels or you have paper clips, yours is going to be different than mine. So it's really important today to just make sure you're using whatever you have and it's all the same. Now, next important thing, when you're measuring, if I got 6.5 or if I got close to 7, we like to round up when we are measuring to get a solid number, right? A number that is either a 6 or a 7, not 6.5. Okay, so we need a whole number like that. And just to avoid confusion, okay, so that we don't get too many numbers going around, my phone here, let me show you one more time. Oh, I kind of just knocked it away. All right, my phone here, I started it. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost all the way down to 7. So when something is really close like that, I'm going to just count that in my book. So if you were measuring something today and you were like, Mr. Nielsen, it's kind of 6, it's kind of 7, all right, it's closer to 7, then go with that number, the number that it's closest to, right? So if it's only 6 and like a very little bit of 7, then you can just write 6 down. If it's 6 and almost all the way to 7, okay, you can write 7 down. Now again, it's a little confusing. Obviously, we're not in school and we don't have these cubes that snap nicely together and we can measure them and they're going to be the perfect length because that's what they want us to use. All right, we have to do something a little differently and it's going to work out. It's still going to be a lot of fun because you're going to get to measure things at home. So let me flip the page here, okay? And let's see what we have. Now, here's a tape measure. If you have pencils or if you have paper clips at home, if you have quarters at home, take those quarters, line them up right on the screen or right on your book. Sorry, it's my screen, your book, all right? On your book at the beginning of that line, your first one, quarter, penny, whatever you're using, all right? If I'm going to measure this sticker here, I'm going to put it right at the beginning of it, and then I'm going to do the next one. Remember, no gaps, no overlaps, right? So I would just keep going all the way until I got to the end, and whatever that number is, that's what I would write in this blank right here, okay? So if I'm doing it in my book, this stapler, well, let me see. I'm gonna do it right on my screen. 2, I'm doing it with quarters. 3, 4, on my screen, it looks like 4. Now, guess what? Yours is gonna be different. You might have something else. You might be doing pennies. Well, pennies are smaller. If you know what a penny is, it's really small, okay? And here's a quarter. Well, I'm measuring with the quarter, so it's only going to be 4 of them. If I measure with a penny, it might be longer. So again, this lesson is all about what you have at home. If you're doing this with your parents, if you're doing it by yourself, I want you to just use something to help you measure, all right? But it has to be the same thing. Again, I can't go through all of these with you because we're all going to have different answers. Even the one I wrote, number 4, that's not the answer to that one because I have something different than you have. Okay, if you did it with quarters, great. If you did it with pennies, great. Okay, but if you don't have that, I don't want to give an answer and then you say, well, Mr. Nielsen, I got something different because I don't have pennies at home. I have quarters at home. So you're using what you have. You're going to do great on it. If you don't have anything, parents, it's okay. If it's not the perfect thing, you can just go do the IXL lesson. It's going to help in the same way. All right, tomorrow's IXL lesson is going to be using objects to measure length. So if you don't have quarters, nickels, pennies, all the same thing, to measure this stuff, just skip ahead, go to the IXL lesson. That's fine. Friends at home, if you do, okay, I'll tell you what, we can do number 5 right here. That doesn't require any measuring. If you're looking at number 5 with me right now, all right, because we're on page 567, it says, have students mark an X on the wrong ways to measure the crayons here. So which way is the wrong way to measure these crayons right here? I'm going to get rid of this circle. Which way is wrong? In your book, you can do this one with me. I just can't do the measuring ones with you. So is this how you measure a crayon? No way. Is this how you measure a crayon? Putting the paper clip all the way at the beginning? Are there any gaps? Nope. Are there any overlaps? Nope. Are they all the same size? Yup. Does it go all the way to the end? Yes. Oh, we got a winner right here. What about this one? Does this one work? Are they all the same size? No. So right away we know that does not work. Okay? So that one we can do together. Like I said, I can't do the ones that we're measuring stuff because I'm not measuring with cubes. I might not be measuring with you're measuring with, so it's okay. If you're done that page, let's flip it. Let's just see. All right, if these are all measuring ones. All right, so on my screen here, you can see that all the ones that are left, you're gonna measure at home with you, and I don't want you to worry about number 9 if you're sitting there alone, okay? Don't worry about number 9 because it's about using cubes to measure something. All right, but number 6, 7, and 8, measure those with the things you have at home, with whatever unit you're using. If you're using pencil or paper clips, if you're using pennies, if you're using quarters, all right? However you want to measure them, do it and write it down in this box or this on these lines here. All right, then go to the feather. If you're doing it with quarters, all right, it's going to be how many quarters. Measure them. Remember, side to side, no gaps, no overlaps. Okay, and they have to be the same size. All right, and again, tomorrow you're going to get to do an IXL lesson where you get to actually use objects to make or measure the lines. All right, and you're going to do so great at it. But today's lesson was just a little bit of a practice for tomorrow to help you if you have stuff at home that you can use. All right? I wish we were in school. We could have so much fun with this one with the cubes and whatnot, but I hope you got to measure stuff in your house with the book. If you want, I went and got a whole bunch of different items. I got sunscreen so I can measure how many quarters my sunscreen is right now. I'm just going to measure it because I'm curious. Maybe you're curious. Maybe you say, Mr. Nielsen, how long is that sunscreen? Well, let's find out. I see 1 quarter there. Line it up all the way at the beginning. I see 2. I see 3. Good. 4. 5. 6. 7. Almost 8 quarters long is my sunscreen bottle. Now, that is exactly how you go through and you measure items that are just around your house with whatever units you have. I could do that with quarters. I could do it with paper clips. That's how you measure it. You have to make sure they are side to side, no gaps, and no overlaps, all right? Once you do that, you will be an expert at measuring length using different objects, and I know you're going to do great with it. Tomorrow when you do your IXL, you're going to just go on there, you're going to do the 3 lessons that are assigned to you, and they're all on measuring, okay? I know you're going to do great with them, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.